We actually just booked our Bali accommodation the other day
Okay.
for the whole month with a pool in our like apartment sort of thing. Anything you could really ask for in the place, and like quite close to like the beach and everything around, is £150
You're
each
lying.
for the whole month. And at that point, like I was just like kind of just living different places and like doing up like hippie lifestyle. So from corporate to like properly 6 months to a year of just making no money and traveling around. Kind of applies to the bars as well, but like because it's coins and it's a collectible, it like sits outside of the whole banking system. Just today I had someone message me about a relative having invested 200 grand into some forex company that within looking up after a little while, it was very clear that it was not legitimate, you know.
So go back to gold coins. How much do you have invested personally yourself at the moment in gold coins? Welcome to the Takeoff Experience, where I sit down with highly driven people to talk about their journey, their failures, and their successes. If you want to take off in your career, your business, your finances, or your mindset, then this podcast is for you. Welcome back to the Takeoff Experience. So we got Kevin back in the building. How are you doing today, bro?
Yeah, very good. Glad to be back, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you back. Listening back, it was a good episode about peer-to-peer. I know we touched on gold coins, but I wanted in this episode to go in a little bit deeper. But before that, I realized that I didn't actually get much of your background involved, and I think it would be good to hear more about that. So yeah, where are your parents from? Exactly.
So both of my parents are actually from different places in Ireland.
Okay.
And I was born and raised in Ireland.
Okay.
Funnily enough, they met in Australia.
Oh,
but
interesting.
Yeah, having never like known each other or anything, but they ended up moving back and having me, and that kind of brought them together, I think.
Mad. What were they doing out in Australia? Do you know?
Literally traveling, like,
okay,
it's unusual for their age, to be honest.
Yeah,
and especially like Ireland back then. But I think my dad was kind of the one from his side of the family that kind of was a bit more adventurous, and they went to Australia. Then they went from Australia, having met each other, to Bali, and back then there was like nothing there, kind of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, kind of a cool origin story for them.
That's where you got the traveling bug from, then, right?
It must be, you know. Actually, must be.
Yeah, oh gosh, because you're traveling yourself.
Yeah.
Soon, right?
So I've already done quite a lot of traveling, and quite a lot of the stuff that they would have done, actually. But yeah, I'm looking to make that more of a lifestyle going forward, to be honest.
Yeah. And where are you traveling to for the listeners?
Starting in Thailand this time around. I think that side of the world, it's just easiest to fly into Bangkok, really.
Yeah.
It's like the cheapest flight. But I like Thailand anyway. So I'm going to do that for about a month, and then probably Bali, Indonesia for a month or two, but we'll see how that goes.
Wow. And how long are you planning to like stay out there for?
It depends, because I think we're going to try and do like, I'm going with my girlfriend, we're going to try and do like different places. It won't just be like set in Asia.
Okay.
We're going to try and like bounce around and stuff.
Oh wow. Okay.
My sister's just moved to Canada, so
oh wow, you might go down that way.
I think
whoa, a lot flying.
Yeah, we'll probably leave that one for later next year maybe, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Wow, that's crazy. Enjoy it. I'm jealous. I definitely wish I could do that.
We actually just booked our Bali accommodation the other day.
Okay.
And because we decided for Bali, it's a small enough place that we'd like book one place for the whole month and then kind of do day trips and stuff. And just so we're not like carrying our bags everywhere. But for the whole month, with a pool in our like apartment sort of thing, anything you could really ask for in the place, and like quite close to like the beach and everything around, is £150
You're
each
lying.
for the whole month. I
Really?
Swear, yeah, it's crazy.
£300 for 30 days.
And like
what, £10 a day?
It's pretty mental, dude.
That's crazy.
I'm getting away at the right time with the way
Oh
prices are going here.
Wow, no wonder so many people live out there.
Yeah, and sure, I was mentioning just before this that they're introducing a 5-year tax-free visa for digital nomads.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna try, like, once that comes in, we're probably gonna try get on that.
I mean, that makes sense, right? Like,
it's a no-brainer, to be honest.
Your expenses will be so low, like you're almost making more money, right?
Have
like
to make
doing
money,
that.
yeah.
That's wild.
I actually say that's one thing I do bang on about quite a bit is, like, people always say you're not going to get, like, rich from budgeting or like cut back on expenses, but, like, if your money is going towards half your expenses, like, what's the point? You know
Exactly. If your 50% of your salary is going towards expenses and you can get that 50% back or 40% back,
for sure,
that's basically a 40% pay rise. Okay, well, not 40%, but you know what I mean. It's technically like a bit of a pay rise, right? So,
and in this case, like, if that's my accommodation is going to go from nearly £1,000 a month to about £150 a month. That's ridiculous. I won't have to earn as much money. You know?
Yeah, and you won't have as much pressure, which is wow. That is wild. Huh? Might have to look into that as well. That's crazy. So, schooling wise, did you school in Ireland as well? Okay, and
school and university in Ireland.
School and university. What university?
University College Cork.
Okay,
it's one of the bigger ones in Ireland, probably. Okay. Yeah, if you're not familiar.
And what do you study actually as well?
So I did what was called Business Information Systems.
Okay. Also a bit of technology in it.
Exactly, yeah. So it's kind of a business course with a dumbed down computer science mixed in. It's quite cool, actually. They get a lot of recognition because it's like that sort of thing is really employable nowadays.
Yeah.
And, like, I went in to be, like, a business analyst from that, which is, like, the perfect kind of role to come out of that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. And were you working in Ireland for a while after that? Because you said you got your first role was business analyst after you.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, like, I only really had, like, a weekend job my whole life before.
Really? I mean, it's fair enough. Some people have never worked before.
Yeah.
They got their first grad job.
Like, I was kind of just getting by with what I could, and various little ways of making money, you know, when you're younger. But because I did the good thing about my course was they did, like, a 6-month placement, and loads of people were going to, like, America, various places with all these big companies. So it's a big advantage if you can find that in your course. I did obviously a 6-month internship in London, and then off the back of that was, like, offered a graduate program.
Okay.
So, to be honest, from university, my path was kind of straightforward.
Okay.
Like, it all kind of fell into place, whereas I didn't even, like, coming into, like, fourth year, I already knew what I was doing, kind of thing, you know?
Wow. And so it sounds like you came to London straight away after uni, pretty much.
Yeah, okay. Literally, like,
oh wow,
I think probably would have finished, and then about 2 or 3 months later, was over working full time, which is a bit surreal because I'd always kind of envisioned myself doing, like, a bit of, like, you know, like a traveling gap year sort of thing, which I do. Like, being honest, if that's in your realm of possibility, I still fully recommend it.
I suggest it, definitely.
Honestly, even if
if you can do it.
I think people are, like, financially and stuff, they put it off, but I mean, of all my traveling experience, I've only really lost money during those times, and like, I regret none of it because it all works out eventually, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It definitely does. And I think taking a break is important. I think, especially from studying, you're studying 3 years, you're doing 2 years of college, you're doing 5 years of secondary school, then you're doing 5 to 7 years of primary school, whatever. There's a lot of studying. But any breaks, I think it's important to take a break. How did you feel when, like, you moved to London? Like, what was it like compared to, like, Ireland? Whereabouts in Ireland did you say you were
Cork.
Cork. What was it like compared to Cork?
There's a lot of differences, especially back then, to be honest.
Yeah.
And also, back at that point in time, when I was making money in London, I was getting nearly double euros when I'd come home, which was crazy to me. But like, for a bit of perspective, like, to get around Cork, you're getting buses, like, and like up until recently, you could be waiting like 2 hours for a bus, sort of thing, you know.
2 hours.
Yeah. Whereas nowadays it is better, but like there's no tube. Wow. And so even just like that was mind blowing for me. people here like rage about the tube. Like
waiting like an extra 2 minutes, right?
Yeah,
they're spoiled, right? Modern day problems.
Nah, it blew my mind actually because I think it was like the very first week that I came over.
Yeah,
I was getting on a tube, and at this point, to me, like just the underground was like an unbelievable convenience.
Yeah,
you know,
it is crazy convenient, to be honest.
and like I'm standing in the tube, just got on, had been waiting a few minutes, and I see this guy come running, and I was like, okay, the door started making the noise, you know, and I'm like, all right, he's not making this, surely. He sprints in, and his head got caught in between the doors. So, and like he was kind of like, help. You know? At that point, I didn't even know. I'd never seen the likes of this. So I'm just like bursting out laughing, basically.
It's hilarious.
Someone eventually helped him, but it was,
London is like such an interesting place because I've never seen a place where people are literally rushing to get home. It's literally that. Like he's doing that because he's rushing to get home, and it's hilarious actually when you think about it.
It's true though, because even myself, like in Ireland, everyone's very like slow paced.
Yeah,
and like I've just found over the years, like my walking around pace is so different now. Like
it is. Yeah,
I'll be rushing places, but I don't even have anywhere to go, kind of thing. You know?
Yeah. It's crazy, right? Actually, like, yeah, we're not relaxed in London. It's definitely the vibe of being in a big city and these big corporations around and what the work ethic's like.
For sure.
Yeah, it's very, very different. Okay, that's so interesting. Okay, so business analyst, did you only do that throughout your career?
To be fair, when I initially started, it was like an analysis / like service delivery sort of thing, but in cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was kind of interesting, actually. I don't know if you remember, but like a couple of years back, the NHS got like hacked by that whole ransomware situation.
Yeah.
So like I was doing my very first role at that point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like, you know, you expect these companies to be like well prepared for that sort of stuff, but like it would blow your mind how there was just utter panic. No one knew what was going on, or if we were like prepared for that sort of thing, or it was just like let's just try and do whatever we can right now, you know.
Yeah, it's so shocking, right? Some of the biggest organizations, how backwards they are. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. Of course, you can't say much about it because it's, you know, it's classified. But like,
I do think like it's the same. Like from what I've heard everywhere,
it
like
is. Yeah,
there was a guy like, and when I tell people where I used to work, like they're always like, "Oh, that must be so intense. Must be high pressure, whatever." There was a guy in one of my teams who used to go to the library during office hours and just go to sleep. And he'd read a book for 5 minutes and go to sleep with no alarm, and he would come back to work when he would wake up naturally.
Oh my god!
And like he was also like contracting, so like
wait, he was going to sleep after work?
No,
in the library.
No, during work.
Oh,
like he'd head off about 12 p.m, go for a nap in the library.
Oh my god! Okay. That was his lunch break.
Kind of, but like if he's not setting even an alarm, he could be gone for hours, and then he just stroll back in, sort of thing. And it was like common knowledge, but they never really got like called up or anything.
Oh my god, that's crazy. That is wild.
And when you're getting paid by the hour, because he was a contractor, like that blew my mind. It made me really realize like I'm doing too much by staying here until 7 p.m. sort of
wow, that's crazy. So how did you get to the point where you got to now, where you've worked for an investment bank? How did that journey happen?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think, you know, I said I hadn't really worked much before uni and that. I think even though that was the case, I still like really buffed up my CV before all the companies came in for the internships. So even though like you may not have much experience, your CV can still look better than like other people's, you know. And like all the companies that initially came in looking for interviews and stuff, I was interviewed by most of them purely because of like the state of my CV. So that's one thing if you're looking to get into an investment bank or a corporate job or anything that you think maybe is a little bit out of your level or something, like work on your CV regardless. Like there's so much free stuff you can do nowadays. You can add tons of experience to your CV in a couple of weeks kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that was a big part. And as I said, like I went internship, grad program, finished grad program, and then full-time kind of thing.
Okay.
So like to be honest, that's like the typical what your parents when you grow up, like that's what they envision, that's what they want you to do, is like go to university, get a job.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of like that was never really like my intention. It just kind of like that's the system, you know, and I kind of just went that way. And obviously looking back now, I don't have any regrets or anything, but I did leave a couple of years ago. So just before COVID, I was working as a permanent employee in the bank, and I just like I'd done a couple of years after the grad program. Like I wasn't insanely passionate about it. It was like a job to me, and I think my mental health and just like stress was getting to me a little bit. So I was like, all right, I need to maybe take a step back and see what else I kind of want to do. And I've been, as I said, like I wanted to do a gap year early on, so I kind of wanted to take some time out and actually just travel and stuff. Headed off traveling for what was supposed to be indefinite, and at that point, like I was just like kind of just living different places and like doing up like hippie lifestyle. So from corporate to like properly 6 months to a year of just making no money and traveling around.
Oh wow.
Which I don't regret either. It was amazing. But then COVID happened. I was actually in Komodo, and it's like you know the Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
That's like the only place in the world that's in Indonesia. It's like a small island in Indonesia. And we went on like a 4-day like boat around the island sort of thing. But there was like no reception or anything for 4 days. We'd heard like rumors of this coronavirus thing before we get on the boat, but it was like something that hadn't even like kind of got to the UK.
So you didn't even know COVID was happening. Okay.
Not really, no. And then like
mad.
Literally 4 days later, we get off the boat and everyone has like 30, 40 messages, missed calls from their parents and stuff, being like, "Yo, you need to come home. Like this thing is getting crazy." So yeah, about a week later, I was like, all right, this is starting to be a bit weird, and no one knew what was the real situation at that point in time. So I ended up going back to Ireland for another couple of months before speaking to my old manager and him having a contracting opportunity. So that's where I got to today, basically.
That's crazy. So COVID messed up your holiday or your gap year type thing.
I'll be honest, like, because there's a lot of people that came out of COVID in a bad state, and everyone, like some people had issues with their finances, others with their health. Like I had done 6 months of travel, having the best time before that.
Fair.
And at that point, even I was like, a bit of luxury and coming home for a bit would be nice anyway.
Yeah. So
to be honest, I was happy enough at that point to come home for a while. Didn't think it'd be that long, but it did cut short my travel plans, but I think I came off better because of it.
Yeah.
Because came home and I actually, like as I said, I'd spent a couple of weeks like working on my self and trying to decide what I was going to do and doing courses and things like that. Yeah. And then ended up back at my old company, but as a contractor.
Yeah.
Which kind of changed the course of my whole career and actually worked out like way better than I could have imagined, to be honest.
Yeah. I guess everything happens for a reason, right? Like it's just one of those kind of situations. You can't plan it for everything, The
one thing I'd say is I shouldn't have eaten that bat in China.
Well, how bad was it?
I'm joking.
Gosh.
But the way, that's what they say, Corona was from like some...
Oh, eat the bat.
Yeah.
Did you actually eat bat? No. Oh, wow. I was about to say, man.
I swear, I've had people calling me up being like, it was you, wasn't it? You started this whole thing.
There's actually a film that is literally basically the same thing. I think it's called Contagion.
Oh yeah, I think
It came out like 10 years ago. Yeah, it's literally the same stuff. Like a bat dropped something and then a pig ate it, and then
it's freaky
in China, and then then people started getting this sickness, that flu-like sickness, and then started dying. The whole world got it. Yeah, it's a very interesting film actually.
It's
very
weird the way
freaky.
that stuff happens.
Yeah, I know. It's very freaky actually. It's very freaky. Yes.
It's the Simpsons is the one for me. Have you seen the amount of stuff that the Simpsons like predicted? And
No, I mean,
I've read like a thing on it before, and it's crazy. Like there was like Trump was like
Trump's president one was. Yeah, I remember that one.
That
yeah,
was,
that's crazy.
Like, how is that? Like, that should never have happened.
Yeah, that was
crazy.
like, what's it? Almost 20 years. Yeah, that's wild. Like, yeah, I mean, the writers clearly know something. I don't know. Again, no conspiracies on the podcast. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he knows something we don't. Clearly, right? Because he's telling it in stories.
He must do.
Yeah, it's 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 crazy. Okay, so talking about gold coins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you invest in gold coins. You don't invest in gold bars, though, right?
That's a point definitely worth mentioning, because I get that all the time. Like, I have people message me because they see something that I posted about gold coins, and they might ask me like, "Oh, I was buying bars," because I think that's like the thing that everyone is kind of like aware of. And it's like called like bullion.
Yeah.
So the bars are known as bullion. But like, there's so many of the benefits that I'll talk about with gold coins that just don't come with the bars. You're literally like, if you can buy a ton of it, then fair enough, because with the price of gold fluctuating, and if you buy it at the right time, you'll obviously benefit massively.
Yeah.
But there's very little else to it. The gold content is basically the whole reason to buy the gold bars. So
yeah,
I have no interest. And also, my gold broker, like he moves like 600 grand worth of gold coins every month.
Wow.
And like that, compared to the bullion, it's like 1% of that.
Really?
Yeah.
So he's not really moving gold bars like that.
They offer it, but like
People
I think because
interested.
they'll tell people the reasons why they should go for the coins instead. It just you'd see very few go for the bars after hearing all the reasons to go for the
what are some
coins.
of those reasons, if you can tell us like one or two of them?
Yeah, for sure.
Say,
So in terms of versus bars,
Yeah.
there's I think I mentioned this the last time, but because it's legal tender technically, there's no tax on any gains.
Yeah.
So any money you make, no tax.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is. And like obviously doesn't apply to the bars. I think there isn't cases where that applies to bars. You've also got the rarity side of it. So with the bars, obviously their gold in itself is rare enough, but with the coins, because there's only certain mintages of each coin, they're like rare in kind of a different way. They're also made for specific occasions, which makes them popular to certain people. And to be honest, if you invest in gold coins as an investor, you're likely going to sell to someone eventually who's like a collector.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It sounds like it's more of a collector's game, and that's where the value's coming from for some of that.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Also, like, this kind of applies to the bars as well, but like, because it's coins and it's a collectible, it like sits outside of the whole banking system. So even if the price of gold drops crazy, or stock market goes badly, or to be honest, nowadays the way things are going, I could see any number of things happening.
Yeah.
And like, I don't like, it's not that I don't trust like the financial institutions, but I don't really feel safe keeping my money in a lot of places nowadays. Whereas this is something that you own physically.
Yeah.
So you can keep that yourself, and it's always going to have like some sort of inherent value.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, actually. You said something very interesting that I wanted to just speak on a little bit. So buying gold coins, even gold bars, is like sitting outside of the financial system, right? So yes, although the price is fluctuating, like you said, you have something physical that you can hold, store, whatever, right? Something physical versus like stocks, which is they don't even give you physical paper anymore, right? So it's kind of virtual in a way. Crypto is virtual, as we know, and cash these days is virtual, really. So that does make sense, and I think you're right. I think not having everything in one place, something outside that, God forbid, if the whole financial system was to topple, we go back to, okay, let's start trading gold. You have that you can use to say, okay, cool, I've still got some money, but something physical with me. Yeah, no,
for sure.
Very, very interesting.
And that's the thing, like it's really applicable to a lot of different people, because like that's one thing I found with like some of the older generation is that, like, when I explain to them the concept of the gold coins, the fact that it's physical, they can see it and understand it, and it's there, they have it, it makes sense to them. It's like really appealing. Same with like certain cultures, like Indian culture, gold is like a really big thing. They already will have like necklaces and chains and all these sorts of things that are usually worth money, and they just keep it aside anyway as like a store of value almost. That's been happening for as long as you can kind of remember, sort of thing. It is good to have something at least that's slightly separate and to the standard financial system, I think. And you mentioned, like, if we had to go back to the gold standard in a way, hopefully not. But I mean, at least you would be covered in that sense.
Yeah. No wonder everybody says it's like when it's doomsday, that's where everybody like sort of runs to, right? And you look at like tin goods, you look at gold and stuff like that.
Everyone's even like talking about that now with like commodities that like you should invest in food essentially.
I mean, right now you never know what's gonna happen, because like, you know, I've seen recently that City's forecasting inflation to be 18% in Jan. I think inflation's higher than that personally. I think they're behind a little bit, or I feel like they're not accounting for a lot of stuff, because if you look at just your general expenses, it's higher than 10%, right?
I mean, the reality of what it is they're never going to tell us.
They'll never say, oh, it's 20, it's 30%. I mean, come on, man. Like if I'm talking about filling up my car, right, it's clearly more than 10%. If I'm talking about my energy bills, it's clearly more than 10%. If I'm talking about our food shop, it's clearly more than 10%. So where most of our money is going, it's more than a 10% increase. So
100%.
You know, to say they're saying that, but we all know that it's, well, maybe not all of us know, but I personally think it's higher than 10%, which is why I think we're feeling it a bit more.
I do think like if it gets to the point where like what Citibank said, where they're declaring it as 18%. At that point, we're going to be in a sticky situation, because what's the reality of it then is probably like 30%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just every time I just see forecasts for stuff, it just keeps on going high instead of low, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like they say it's something to do with because of the Russia war and supply and stuff like that, but I don't know anymore.
But I think it's just a combination of things though. Like at the same time, like all the government borrowing for all the COVID payments and stuff, that's a crazy amount of money that just was just handed out by the government. Like it was never not going to be a situation at some point.
Yeah, it's true.
And like definitely with Russia, like all the gas and stuff that they control, that's obviously they're now making us pay for things in rubles and things. It's going to affect the price of like gas and stuff as well. And obviously with like energy and fuel and things like that, like when they're going up, like they're probably up 100%, 200% sort of thing, that overall is going to bring up the price of the cost of everything, because it's just so exaggerated. And I think, I don't know if you might have seen, but the States just had their first decrease kind of in inflation for a little while.
Really? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Which surprised me a little bit, but I genuinely think that was just like the energy kind of catching up, and I think it came down quite a bit, which just overall reduced inflation. Whereas I don't think anyone in the States has noticed a drop in the price of the stuff that they're buying on a regular basis.
Definitely not. I don't know if we're feeling it more than them. I don't know if there's maybe a bit of a difference potentially.
I mean, I actually did a podcast with someone from the States recently, and he seemed to think it was a similar situation.
Really?
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Wow. Maybe they're just hiding it a bit better than we are. I mean, we're getting a shipment of. I think we're getting a shipment. I think it's gas. I think it's gas from Australia. We're getting a shipment. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that a few days ago. Yeah, read up about it. It's so interesting. I haven't gone into the details of it, but like, yeah, we're getting, apparently there might be shortages this winter. So.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. To be fair, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about all this stuff on a regular basis, but at the end of the day, I am moving abroad in a month. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, so yeah,
not really feel the brunt of
yeah,
that
you
too
won't feel
much.
it, but you can help people out, right? When they're struggling. I think
definitely.
we do these things because we want to help people and we want to inform people and give people the information. I think we're in an unprecedented time, which is a bit wild. Like we're still young, so we've gone through a lot, like in our lifetimes in the UK. So. It's like every other year there's something we got to contend with, and this is probably one of the biggest things that I think we have to contend with, because I feel like there's this sense of nobody knows what's going to happen. There's just uncertainty, like, okay, next year what's it going to be like, right? This year was bad. October is going to get bad, and we're hearing, okay, next year April it's going to get really tough.
You're saying like our generation, like my girlfriend's dad, who would be quite a bit older than us, obviously, was only saying yesterday that he thinks like right now we're living in like the craziest time that he's been around for, sort of thing.
Wow.
So it's like,
so if he's saying that means it is that, and
that means it's
and
serious.
yeah. If he's saying that means it is, and we're not even half our life yet. Madness. I guess this is,
But we do what we can, and that's why we're trying to invest some money and fix up our financial situations, because at the end of the day, if you're just letting everything kind of go by and you're only going to feel the wrath of all these increases and things, then if you're not doing something at least to combat these sort of things.
Financial education's never been more important, and I think they definitely have to fit this into the curriculum at some point. Definitely has to be in primary school, definitely has to be in secondary school as a mandatory thing. I think the time is near, because it's not fair, I think, to people who are not able to just understand some of the basics of it. This is the most important time of most of our lives, and a lot of people are going to struggle. So without those tools, it's I think it's a bit of a shame, actually.
To this day, it blows my mind the lack of like life education that you actually get in schools.
You get nothing, no life education. Like when I think about it, it's not one mental thing.
It's all like I'm never going to use Pythagoras theorem.
No,
I've accepted this. It has its use in whatever, I don't even know, but like, and we do like accounting course and stuff, but it has to be applied to like real life situations. Like you need to understand how to set up your financial situation from an early age, sort of thing. And I think nowadays, from what I've seen anyway, from socials and stuff, like the younger generation, a lot of them are trying to kind of take it into their own hands, and they're trying to learn about this stuff. And like I get probably more young people like under 18 than I get like my age coming to me for help, which I find interesting.
That's encouraging.
That's a good thing.
That's definitely encouraging.
But it's mad that they're having to do that themselves rather than learning about it.
Exactly, already school, know it right at school. Yeah, no, it's sad. It's definitely sad, and I hope that we do something in the UK with education. I'm sure that something will come up at some point to do so. But
you did that thing.
With
Flick
so Financial Times, it's their literacy charity. That was quite good. That was quite fun.
That's encouraging. Something like that is encouraging.
I hope that they do more of that.
People are, at least some people are trying to get it to be included, which is good.
It was very interesting, because I was like, wow, I wish I had this at school. I wish I could, And the funny thing is, a lot of them knew about crypto, which was okay. They know what crypto is, so encouraging signs. A lot of them, in terms of scams, I think a lot of them knew how to spot a scam.
That's good.
Which was good, very encouraging as well. I think I think their generation, I think they're fortunate because they have like TikTok, right? So, and there's a lot of people on TikTok spreading
financial
good information.
Yeah.
So they're able to have leverage that online resource.
But you know what I think is interesting though,
Yeah.
now that you say that, is that like with TikTok, I don't know, you might remember, but a couple of good few years back, like maybe 5-6 years back, Facebook had a kind of the algorithm where you'd like something and it would just feed you short, like snappy videos to capture your attention, sort of thing. And they got like sued, and like they did a big announcement and like changed their whole algorithm, because what they found out was that like these short snappy videos that they were throwing at people, and it was like all was going to be with a certain genre. It was the most exciting stuff in like a short video. And they were told like, okay, you can't do this because it's going to screw up people's attention span, and you're like using people's short attention span to your advantage by throwing like random short videos at them. And then so they stopped doing that completely. Enter TikTok, which is that's their whole thing.
That's their whole thing, yeah.
And you can see like I haven't even really, like, I use it a little bit for like content myself, but like I've tried almost consciously to not like use it like the way it's intended.
Yeah, you gotta try and be different, definitely, for sure. Just
cause like I've even noticed myself once or twice, I'd be like, okay, what's it kind of throwing at me? Because I'm interested by the algorithm, but like, and then it's like 20 minutes have gone by and I didn't even realize, sort of thing. You know what I mean? And like, can you imagine when you're younger as well? And that's like the first sort of, you see that from like a young age. Yeah, and it's like the funniest stuff.
And that's what your like really expectations are, basically. That everything that you know, what you consume has to be fed to you in like a minute, basically. It's a bit.
And this is the scary thing for me, is that in China, it works totally different. Like, kids aren't allowed on it up to a certain age.
Oh, really? Okay.
They get shown specific content that's actually like educational, sort of thing. And
that's what I heard, yeah.
And I think there's like timers and everything as to how long you can be on it if you're under a certain age, kind of thing. And like none of that applies to the rest of the world. Like
it should definitely apply, but then I think we're more liberals, what they'll say, right?
Yeah, true. But it's like because they created it, you know. Like again, I don't want to get into the conspiracy thing.
Yeah, no, I've heard something. You know what? Maybe I'll do an episode. Maybe I'll create a conspiracy podcast. And funny thing is, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but there are some things out there that make sense, and that one kind of makes sense.
But I mean,
of course, there's reasons as to why, you know, political warfare is a real thing. You know, nobody can deny that. That's all these countries are always constantly competing for power.
And like, I'm not big on conspiracy theories either, but I think most of them will have some sort of initial reason as to why they were even thought about, you know, and that might be vaguely true, and then it just gets dragged into crazy scenarios.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know, all of these things have an effect on the world, you know, and the world, you know, finance. What's interesting about finance is politics does have a very important aspect. So it's always good to like just tune into that aspect and understand how that is, because it does have an impact on your finance, especially. So go back to gold coins. How much do you have invested personally yourself at the moment in gold coins?
So what I've put into it myself right at this moment in time is about 16-17 grand.
Okay.
But the value of that now is probably more like in between 20-25.
Okay. Is it dropped because of what's happening?
Oh no, it's gone up. Yeah. So
that's nice.
Well, yeah, it's because of that, but it's also like if you invest in the right ones, kind of at the right times, then they are liable to increase anyway. So for example, one of the coins I bought for 7.5 grand, there was, at the time, there was a £10, actually sorry, it's a £10 coin.
It's a £10 coin?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's just a £10 coin. I know it's not
like
in
a £10 note printed on a coin?
No, like it's a coin, but it's like a £10 coin, which is not really like a thing.
Okay.
Obviously in our
is in the weight of it is £10.
No, it's £10. As in like, so like, you know, obviously the value of it is a lot more.
Yeah.
But you'll have £5 coins sovereigns, £10 coins.
Okay.
£10 is very unusual actually,
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons why it's like valuable. But there was a £5 version of the same coin
Wow.
that was selling for like 20 grand at the time, whereas I was able to get the £10 version for 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's the same coin with less gold content, was more expensive. Like it was just a case of like a matter of time before it increased, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like it was only like a couple of weeks later, having bought it for 7.5 grand, that it was, my broker was telling me that he wouldn't buy it back off me for less than 10, kind of thing.
Okay.
Which is,
that's crazy.
when people think of gold, you know, they don't see returns like that, because it's like considered a safety net. You don't expect to do much in terms of percentages over short periods of time, but it is possible with the coins. But regardless, it's recommended to hold for 3 to 5 years anyway, generally. And you asked me how much I had invested. It also really shouldn't be more than 6 to 10% of your portfolio.
Okay, 6-10% makes sense. And okay, first question I want to hit at you about that. How do you know what to invest in? Because there's going to be listeners that are like, okay, I want to get into gold coins, but I want to make sure that I have a high chance of making money from it. It sounds like, well, you have made money from investing in gold coins. So how do you know which ones are a good one or has a high chance of increasing in value?
So, see, I'll be honest, it isn't hugely straightforward.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in general that you should consider. So low mintages are important. Just means that there's very few of the coins out there, essentially. The gold content, obviously the higher the better. The more gold in the coin, the more you're going to get from it in terms of value. Historical reason, so coins are minted for specific occasions, and like something now in the next couple of months or in the next couple of years sort of thing is when they're making coins related to the Queen in the next year or so. I would imagine she hasn't got too many years left, so like those ones that are towards the end of her tenure will probably end up being quite valuable in years to come.
Are there any coins that you know currently of the Queen or are being made currently right now?
This is the thing. So like majoritively the coins that come from the Royal Mint in the UK have the Queen's face on them.
Okay.
So like that's actually a good point. That is one thing that I would say is almost like a definite. So if you are buying a gold coin, you can get ones that don't have her face or they're just slightly different.
Yeah.
You do want her face to be on it, because I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, but like when she eventually does leave, they will stop making coins with her face on them.
Mad.
And whoever takes over then will, from that point onwards, be the face on these coins.
Okay, so that's
so
gonna have
her
limited
ones,
circulation. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So the ones with her face on them, regardless, are gonna increase in price at that point in time.
Okay.
Like they're just, and then from there onwards, they're gonna continue getting more rare, essentially.
Wow.
Also, randomly, certain years are important.
Certain years, like significant, like what, like a Brexit year or like
not even
COVID year? No,
it can be, but
maybe in the future, COVID will be like, okay, this was the year that COVID.
But it's one of these things where it's just like off the top of my head, 2002, 2017.
2002 was the crash. No, it wasn't a crash. It was early. .com was early 2000. 1999, 2000, not 20. So I don't know. It was 2002 then.
I actually couldn't tell you why certain years are valuable, and it's more related to the specific like mintage that year sort of thing. Okay. I'm not even too sure. There is also occasions where like a certain year might have had like a little defect or something in the coin, and that actually makes them valuable going forward as well.
That's crazy.
But what I would say is, don't just go and buy a coin based off those criteria that I've spoken about, because there is more to it, you know. Like I've found that getting advice from someone who's just really knowledgeable about it has what's helped me. So my broker is someone that I personally know, he has been in this game for 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And I trust his opinion, and so far it's been like spot on. He also is more than willing to help like my clients or anyone that comes to me, and I'm more than willing to introduce people to him. So, or even if you want to learn about it a lot in detail before you invest, like I'll more than happily help people with that. And there is stuff online. You can like obviously do your own research, but it's because it's kind of a niche thing.
It's very niche.
Yeah, it's super niche.
I've not seen any videos about it or podcast episodes about investing in gold coins. Investing in gold bars, yeah, people talk about that generally, but gold coins never. I've never seen anything.
And this is the thing, like I'm genuinely like the first person that I've seen like speak about this sort of thing.
You probably are, yeah.
And like it is niche enough that someone can come in and do really well off it as well, you know.
That's what I like about it, and I like that you mentioned that. I think it's like taking advantage of an opportunity of an area that is not so obvious, but I feel like I don't want to say it's completely safe because that's not true. You can never say that about any investment, but I'm saying there's an element of safety compared to maybe like a Forex. Definitely. This is something that is physical. This is something that's known. Again, gold has been around for a long time. And so there's an element of safety. And then if you're quite good with it, it's like watches, but watches is probably a bit more volatile. But even then, watches, there is something to it. There's an element of safety. You know? Yeah. On
that point, like I saw something the other day that was basically saying like to be an above average investor, you need to do things slightly differently, but be correct about it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's interesting because I also believe that you can do quite well long term with the likes of the S&P 500, you know, like which is not exactly like going against the curve.
Yeah.
But I think it's also good to try and have these slightly more niche things that may pay out quite well in the long term too.
Yeah, and you also said 5 to 6% of your portfolio, which again you're not risking a crazy amount, right?
Yeah.
On it, and I think it's sensible to stay at that as a maximum, no more than that. Anybody listening to this, don't start going wild and say, yeah, I'm going to try and do 100%. I think that's just the common mistake that a lot of beginners make. They're just so greedy that they want to try and flip things straight away. Oh yeah, maybe they're hearing how much you've made and then immediately, and I just don't think that's the right approach to doing it. Definitely.
Exactly. And like you said, when you did the financial literacy thing, that you found that like the kids were like aware of crypto and stuff. That I have found from so many people. Like they come to me and they're like, all my money, like I'm like, where is all your money? And they're like 100% crypto. And like most of this was pre the recent crashes.
Oh my God.
But like that's like crypto is a risky one, probably one of the more risky ones regardless. But to have all of your money in one thing, even if it's like euros or pounds, it's like you're subject to a lot of risk there because all your eggs are in one basket.
Yeah.
It's diversity is such a big thing with investing, and it you don't need to go crazy with it. Like I'm quite well diversified in terms of my portfolio, but I still have like my main things that I put more money towards.
Yeah.
But I make sure that always I have a bit of a split because, and you've seen recently, we discussed on this the last day as well, like if the stocks are going down, my coins are probably doing well, my loans are consistent regardless. So I'm kind of at least balancing my portfolio out in the difficult times, which is important, I think.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Diversity, balancing your portfolio. Yeah, not putting everything into crypto. That is wild. And it's greed. That's the number one reason for it. People just want to 100%. Flip straight in. You can do that with little amounts if you just want to go a little bit crazy, but just don't do your whole portfolio. I always say that to people, like, just be careful. You're not going to build wealth by constantly trying to flip, because even if you flip, what's going to happen? You're going to keep on trying to flip, and it just takes one time to lose all of everything you worked for. It's more of the mindset. If you get into the mindset of, like, it's literally like roulette, right? You get into the mindset imagine you win black. Okay, you get, I don't know, let's say you get 10K. You're going to be like, okay, cool, let me try and do it on red. You win 20 black. And then you just keep on doing it until you lose. That's what will happen. So I think that there's a reason why we've not seen a gambler in the millionaire list or billionaire list, because it's just not really feasible.
I think you're right on that. Like, everyone's trying to flip things nowadays. I've even found like someone will pop up to something that I posted about coins or something else, and they're like intrigued by it, and then I kind of tell them like what the expected return like as a standard is, and like earlier in the year what I was kind of getting myself and what I'd been told was to be expecting for the rest of the year was like maybe 1% per month in the price of the gold coins as a standard, obviously not including circumstances like that other coin that I was talking about. But like that in itself, 1% per month is really, really good nowadays.
Yeah, that's good.
But because their expectations are like so inflated nowadays because they see the likes of 1,000% in a crypto coin.
Yeah.
Like, if majority of people that I know that made a ton of money from crypto in a short space of time do not have that money anymore, because when you make it so quick like that and from very little effort, more often than not, you put it into something else similar. And like, I know someone who made a ton of money off a random crypto. Next week, his all that money that he made was in the likes of Doge or Shiba or whatever, and like, sure, that he lost them pretty much 90% of that. Then, you know, like that's kind of how it works with that, and it's an element of like wanting that instant gratification of like, put my money in next week 100%. It's unrealistic, and you're going to lose money because your expectations aren't in line with kind of where they should be.
Yeah, it's good for the ego. Winning, right? A lot of people are like, yeah, I was right. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I made this, and they can boast, right? It's good for the ego, and I think that's what it is. And what you're trying to do is fight your ego. And like you said, instant gratification is such an important thing. Being able to delay. I think the best investors know how to delay. So you said that that the expected return for gold coin is about 1% a month, but it can obviously fluctuate.
It does fluctuate. That was also earlier in the year,
okay,
and that was with the expectation of what's kind of gone on with Russia and everything.
Okay.
And gold did for the first few months after that did kind of go at even a kind of a better rate than that.
Yeah. Okay.
But it does vary, and it is hard to kind of put an actual number on it like that.
Okay.
I think that's why the recommended way to go is 3 to 5 years of a hold, because that's like making almost sure that you're going to get a return, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what's like the minimum amount that you can invest in gold coins, would you say?
So it does vary. What I say is, like, if you want it to be an actual good investment, then the recommended is probably between 2 and 2.5k minimum.
Okay.
And that's because like all the reasons that I said for that make the gold coins valuable. Like, if you're buying one that has good attributes in that sense, it's going to be expensive enough, you know, and you want it to have those attributes so that it increases in value.
Okay.
So if you go out and buy the most basic common coin for 100 quid, which you can, you're just probably not going to make any money off it, you know, like. And this is the thing, people always send me these coins that they're not like commemorative, which is the ones that I personally invest in. Yeah. So like graded.
Yeah. Oh, you just get what people on Instagram just sending you coins?
No, so even just, Instagram and Snapchat, I have people asking me like, is this a good investment kind of thing? Okay. And I'm like, it possibly will go up in value, but I don't know where you're going to sell that in years to come. And I can't guarantee it. Whereas, like, at least when you go for the kind of ones that I would recommend, I'm comfortable that it's a good investment, you know. And that's the thing, because the coins that I invest in, they're graded. They have like a rating in terms of condition and everything.
Okay.
Whereas you can get gold coins like straight from the mint that are just like loose. So that if there's a scratch or something on that, like you're losing value regardless.
What does that mean? So, okay, talk me through like, because it sounds like, like when they're getting created. So talk us through that so we have a bit of an understanding of these gold coins. So you're saying they're getting minted by whom? Is it?
So the Royal Mint.
Okay, the Royal Mint. So all of these coins come from the Royal Mint.
Pretty much the ones that I recommend investing in are UK Royal Mint produced coins. Yeah.
And you can actually buy from Royal Mint, can't you?
From the Royal Mint,
you can.
So when you do that, it is generally going to be cheaper. So like majoritively the brokers will get their coins from the Royal Mint.
Okay.
But they'll have like pre-arranged kind of agreements and things that they get in certain coins for in large amounts kind of thing.
Okay.
So they'll buy them even cheaper then as well.
Right.
Whereas, you can, like the Queen's Jubilee, they released a bunch of coins recently from the Royal Mint, and people were like, asked me, should they buy them and stuff, which is, it's a possibility and something to look into, but like you'll buy it loose, you'll have to go and get it like graded and put into a laminate kind of case straight away, or else it's like going to be liable to like rust and things like that,
Right. Okay, I get what you mean. Okay, so loose means it's not in that plastic case.
Yeah, it'll literally just be like
certified
a coin
and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it won't be like have the certification. You'll have like something with it, but you'd still have to go and get it graded and checked by like the NGC basically.
Okay.
So you can actually buy coins quite cheap and invest that way. But the issue is like liquidity, like who's like if there's tons of coins available from the mint, who's gonna buy them off you in the future?
Yeah,
you may get lucky and you may get your hands on something that turns out to be worth quite a lot after spending very little. But as an investment, the way that I do it is a lot more safe, and like the returns are a lot more kind of secured basically.
So because you do it through a broker. And then if you want to sell it in the future, you'll sell it to the same broker, right? You're not going to try and sell it outside.
Very unlikely that I'll try and sell it outside because with my broker, they take their profits when you sell it back to them, and it's a set amount of 4%.
Okay.
So they want you to win. They want you to make as much profit as possible, and they want you to buy it back off them.
Okay.
Or sell it back to them. Sorry. And also, I have like even though it was someone that I personally know by the broker, I did like do my research obviously, and I did speak to quite a lot of brokers, and I was getting a lot of questionable prices from a lot of them and questionable deals. So not necessarily a set amount that they'd buy it back at. They wouldn't necessarily buy it back off you, sort of thing. Whereas I know that my guy only buys and recommends the good coins that are good investments.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't buy it back off you, it's not much use to him.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, how can a beginner get started? I'm thinking about myself.
Well, you're in a good position because, like, what I will tell anyone is like, come and speak to me about it, because, as I just said, there's some questionable brokers out there. You can go and ring up a bunch of brokers in London and try and kind of figure it all out yourself from knowing nothing, but what I do is I help people I show people how I do it and how is the best way to do it, having kind of gone through all that process myself. And I'll put you in touch with what I think is the best broker for the best price kind of thing. Alternatively, you can go away and do all your own research. Try and keep in mind all the things that I kind of spoke about here, because I've had people listen to me talk about this sort of stuff before, and then they go away and they buy something, or they look into buying something that I just don't think is going to work out for them, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I'm like, I appreciate that people a lot of the time they want to take what they can from me and then do their own kind of research.
Yeah, which is fair.
Which is very fair. Yeah, exactly. And that may work out great, but just make sure that you do kind of like, I'm a big fan of like taking advice from people that have already kind of been through it,
I agree. I think because it's such a niche area and the broker you're working with is trusted, is increased in value, and they've got the experience, I do understand that and get that it's definitely a niche area. I think for me as well, I think I'd like to read up a bit about it, but I think if I was to do it, I probably would do it with your person, because it just makes sense to to do it. I've got my hands full in enough areas, crypto. I don't even have time to even read into crypto stocks, property. So like, yeah, I completely get it. So is there any resources that you recommend though, if people wanted to understand just a little bit more about gold coins? Is there any you think of?
So I do get asked this quite a bit. Generally, I do have some stuff that I send people generally, but it's all stuff that I've just kind of collected over the years, PDFs and stuff. But there is a lot of information online. I just can't vouch for a lot of it.
Okay.
The interesting thing with my broker is when you do initially purchase or speak to him, he'll often do like a weekly call with you for like a couple of months after that, so that you like fully understand the investment and how to get the most out of it, kind of thing, which I think is really good, because you won't see that a lot of places. Like, whenever you ever bought like a stock and the CEO sits with you and explains to you,
I doubt that. I doubt that happens.
It doesn't really happen. So yeah, in terms of specific places or resources,
nowhere trusted.
Nothing that I would really like straight away go to, kind of thing.
No, that makes sense for such a niche area. It's like Forex. There's like nowhere I could say, okay, go here for Forex. I don't think there's anywhere that you can really say, okay, it's definitely trusted. Who's your biggest inspiration?
It's like a interview question.
Yeah, this is an actual interview question.
I like that. It's funny, I've been asked that before, and like, I don't know, is there one person that I like fully would say is like my inspiration? I want to be this person. I think like inspiration and like motivation like comes from within over time. Like, you may take bits of inspiration from different people here and there. Like, when I first started doing all this Casey Capital stuff, I came across your profile and took a little bit of inspiration from some of the videos you were doing. And was like, okay, I see what he's kind of trying to do there. I can do something.
That's cool. I had no clue. I'm joking.
But similarly, like, and also I think like some people are like, oh, especially, Andrew Tate, you see all this stuff about him at the moment.
Banned,
So, but also like people are like, consider him inspiring, like, and like that's the issue, is that like people are saying young males are getting taking inspiration from this guy who's saying some maybe questionable stuff and done some questionable stuff. And that's why I'm kind of like, I don't think you should have like one like person who's your inspiration and you want to be exactly like them. You should take inspiration from them and other sources, but you should be the own source of your own inspiration side, kind of thing.
I agree.
Especially another example of recent is like, growing up, probably Ryan Giggs was one of my inspirations.
And
he was the model player, and he's done some dodgy stuff as well. Like, so I don't think you should attach your inspiration to one person. I think you should get your inspiration inside from your own experiences.
No, I agree. I think I completely agree. I think it's not about being obsessed with somebody. It's not about, I think you can like somebody, you can, like you said, draw stuff, but I think the most important thing, like you said, is to draw stuff, learnings from them, certain teachings. Is there certain beliefs that they have? Draw that from them and then use what's the best for you. Completely agree. It's not about just trying to absorb somebody and that's it. You're just trying to be a mirror of them. That's strange.
And I think people do try and do that to some extent. They'll see someone and they're like, that's the career that I want. I'm going to do exactly what he's doing. But then you're not doing kind of your own thing or yourself, and you're not going to probably have a huge amount of success doing that either.
Exactly. You got to try and be you. But again, just draw inspiration. No, I completely agree. So we'll end the podcast with this question. I haven't asked this question in a while. What would you say is your worst financial mistake?
Worst financial mistake. Okay. So I haven't had anything that's like massive, would make you gasp sort of thing. I think when I first came over to London, it's funny you mentioned earlier the roulette. I did have that exact same thing kind of happen to me. It was only a case of like 400 or 500 quid, but at the time I was like, I could have bought an iPhone, and I literally just lost that money on roulette, you know.
Oh wow.
In more recent times, I think, actually, funnily enough, it's kind of an opportunity lost sort of thing, where because I invested in crypto from like 2017 sort of thing, and I profited at the time quite well, and I took out quite a lot of profits. So I was one of the lucky ones. I got a little bit stung by the crash, but still came away with profits, which was a big thing. So I wouldn't consider that a financial mistake. The financial mistake was forgetting about it and just thinking, okay, that's that done from there. Whereas had I kind of stayed in touch with it a little bit, I probably would have benefited massively this time around, kind of thing, you know. So I think that's maybe one. Interestingly enough, I've had loads of people in recent times come to me with their financial mistakes.
Okay.
And like, it's almost genuinely on like a daily basis at this point. Someone will message me with something that's happened to them, and a lot of the time there's not much that I can do at that point, you know. Like you mentioned earlier about kids being more aware of scams and things. You really got to be careful and make sure that if you're doing something that you think is a bit of a risk, like make sure you're doing it through a reputable source.
Yeah.
Like just today, I had someone message me about a relative having invested 200 grand into some Forex company that within looking up after a little while, it was very clear that it was not legitimate, you know. I've had people sign up for jobs that are actually just someone like a F man, I suppose, someone from the UK would say, where like they were just getting this person to sign up for bank accounts or open bank accounts and then receive money into them, which were for luxury items.
Wow.
But in reality, they were just taking out loans from this person's banks.
That's crazy. And
like he did, to be fair, he did come to me at a good time, because he was able to kind of stop it at that point before he got like fully blacklisted. But
that's wild.
Pete, there's a ton of stuff out there nowadays, and like some of these scams and mistakes that people make are so legitimate looking that like it's easy to fall for. So you do have to be really careful.
Wow.
Is there anything you have of a note, do you think?
What, my worst financial mistake?
Yeah.
I think I've spoken about it a lot. Probably. On the podcast. I think I can't remember what episode I spoke about it. I've made a ton. One of my biggest one was I had a student overdraft. I opened it, but I guess they never really explained to me terms and conditions, how I'm supposed to use it. It wasn't really my main bank account. I just got it so that I could use the overdraft, the £500 overdraft, end up using it, put money in it here and there, and then I got lax with it. And then I stopped putting money in for a few months, and they were like, okay, cool, close the account. And they were like, okay, you owe us £500 and you're in default. Okay, and then they added it to my credit report, and I was like, what the fuck? What's going on?
That happens. I get that a lot as well.
Yeah, and then I read the terms and conditions that, you were supposed to use this account to receive your student loan. You're supposed to keep it active, blah, 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 blah.
This is the thing, I think.
Feign ignorance, I guess, right?
Yeah, but that happens a lot. Like, because one of my things on my Patreon is like a credit kind of score improvement guide. And so I do get like a lot of people messaging me about issues with their credit as well. And like one thing I'd say is like, if it does happen to you like that, in that sort of situation where you get a default put onto a report, you can sort it out if you sort it out really quick.
Yeah, I did sort it out quickly.
Yeah, no one does
I
either.
knew nothing at that time about money. Oh man,
it goes back to what I was saying. Like, we all make mistakes.
Yeah,
and especially when it comes to finances and investing, everyone makes mistakes, and it's just about learning from them, really. And if you can learn from someone else's mistakes, which is what I try and help people with, and yourself, then you can probably get away with making a lot less, which is advised, to say the least.
Exactly, and that's where you definitely want to be. Thank you so much for spending some time with us again on the podcast again. I hope you enjoy your trip to Thailand, to Bali, enjoying wherever else you get to go as well. I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm definitely going to hit you up about those gold coins as well. Listeners as well, if you do want to get in touch with Kevin, his details will be in the show notes as well. It's been great. It's always a delightful conversation to have with you about everything about the world of finance. Listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Takeoff Experience. We'll see you next week.